My name is Darius Washington, and today we're going to be discussing the um, DC Universe. What the bleep? Yes, that's pretty much where we're at this point. And I'd like to introduce my friend. Uh, Please state your name for the record.
My name is Lloyd Carter, and I'm a comic consumer. I can also say that I'm a fan of anime. I can also mention about being involved in some of the local conventions in Atlanta, and also being a member of a local anime convention called Anime Week in Atlanta.
Talking about the DC animated universe, and we're more talking about these. Many of their films. Apparently, there have been like 38 of these darn films. And now we get to the latest movie, Justice League Dark Apokolips War, where everything came to a head. And we're like, what the hell do we do now?
Well, I will admit that I think recently I didn't realize that for some of the films there actually were connected in some form or another, because most of the ones that you would see, you would have Batman being in there, or Superman, or or Wonder Woman, but it would be portrayed by different actors, and it never, for me, it never actually clicked that some of these shows were actually absolutely connected with each other.
Right.
And of course, I guess in some ways you could probably blame it on DC by not even having some sort of a mention that they were connected.
Okay.
I would guess the only physical way that you would know is by looking at the characters and their costumes, because like, for example, most of them would either use like their standard costumes. Some of them would use their New 52 costumes, and you're like, well, do they absolutely fit? Does it actually mesh with the whole thing? And if they stuck with just one standard costume for each of those characters throughout that, then maybe people would have known that, hey, maybe these are kind of connected in some way. But
I do remember, for example, Wonder Woman specifically, there was already an origin story. They did just Wonder Woman the movie. Excuse me. And then they started doing these new series after Flashpoint Paradox, pretty much based on the New 52. They did they had her involved with the Justice League. They had another movie where they did her origin again with Wonder Woman Bloodlines.
Yeah.
And they changed her costume in that way, and I can see where you're talking about, like they're integrating things. And oh my goodness, there's been some bit of violence in these films, but nothing on the scale of what happens in the Apokolips War. I think that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, the lucky characters are either eaten or eviscerated in this movie, and you've seen this done.
And you saw entrails.
Yes, you saw entrails. You saw they are gutted, and you're like, basically, I've called this to my friends. I've called this movie Super Friends meets Devilman Crybaby. That's pretty much what happens to the Justice League and everybody else.
In a way, you kind of think that the producers were trying to come out with something so grandiose because, hey, this is going to finalize everything that we've done with the DC animated universe. We're going to make this the best thing ever, but at the same time, we're going to probably make it as much violence. Well, and
we're going to break everybody's heart.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and probably more use of 4-letter words as much as possible. You
already know that's coming if John Constantine's in it, though. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely talk. Okay, so we got the Apokolips War. Basically, all the characters that we've seen in these previous films, like you said, it's a huge cast, and so basically it's just like Avengers Endgame and Infinity War. They're wielding all these characters that they've been building up through different stories to culminate in this one big threat. And basically, one of the biggest strengths is that it uses the relationships that they've built up between the different characters in these previous films.
Mm-hmm.
He actually uses it fairly well in this Apokolips War. Apokolips War is 100 minutes, which is much longer than the standard 70, 60, or like 75, I think, roughly, minutes that they normally give to the DC films.
Yeah.
This one actually goes to 100 minutes, an actual feature-length film.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually get more development. There's some really cool moments, I think, between Damian and Bruce that really come into play with the larger arc. Mm-hmm. And also very much Superman and Lois. I love seeing them play out.
Oh yeah, yeah.
In fact, with Lois, she's completely different. She's not entirely different, but the way they introduce her in this particular film, the way she's used here, basically, apparently, Lois has a bunch of skills she learned from her dad.
Oh, yeah. Oh, of course, of course. I mean, you
never thought about it.
This one kind of reinforces the fact that Lois is more than just a writer and a reporter.
Or
she's an army brat.
Mm-hmm. So many of them have been devoted to Batman. But like even before this, we had Under the Red Hood, Batman Beyond, Return of the Joker, Mask of the Phantasm, obviously,
and Batman Returns.
Batman Return. Return of the Joker. Yes, Return of the Joker.
No. The Dark Knight Returns. They did an adaptation.
Oh yeah, the Dark Knight Returns. Yes, that too. My bad. Thankfully, that's outside of this. So much has been devoted to Batman, and then we get to this universe specifically. We have him, how he's developed this relationship with his son Damian, mm-hmm. Which is basically on a story that's Grant Morrison, I believe, right? That wrote that came up with the idea of Damian existing. Was it Grant Morrison?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think that was prior to the Batman and Robin series. Mm-hmm. right around Final Crisis, where Bruce is gone, and Dick Grayson assumes the role for a bit, and mm-hmm. Damian appears as Robin.
Yeah, Batman kind of gets hurt during Bad Blood, and he goes missing for a while, mm-hmm. and he basically does the same thing. Dick becomes Batman for a bit, and while the team this new crop of Bat family tries to hold things down. And actually, I want to touch a little bit on. There was Son of Batman, Batman versus Robin, and Bad Blood, and I really do kind of want to touch on Bad Blood a bit, mm-hmm. Which is the previous two weren't so entirely too great. I don't know, they kind of fell off a little bit. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed Bad Blood because we got to meet Kate Kane as Batwoman, and she got to really hold her own. We got Batwing. I think he's Lucius Fox's son.
I think so, if I recall.
I can't remember his name, but it's Lucius's son, using the Bat tech. And so they all basically get in on the whole mystery against Talia, and they pretty much depict Talia as
probably one of the few instances in which the entire Batman family is in one film.
Yeah. So but I loved seeing them all come together. This was of the Bat family, of the Bat films in that particular universe. This honestly was the strongest one. It's one I go watch that one. I didn't entirely care for. Then again, Damian Wayne is an annoying little shit.
Yeah.
But he's genuinely funny because his mentality of being raised by the League of Shadows, and Talia rearing him to feel superior to everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
It carries over from the comic book. It's like, okay, he's really annoying. You want to see him get his butt kicked, but at the same time, I can kind of see him developing one day. And I love this one conversation where, like, Damian during Hush, he's sitting there talking. He's like talking down to Bruce while Bruce is on his way to go see Catwoman. He's like, "Dang it, Dad! Make sure you use a condom this time." I'm like, damn, really? He's like just annoying. I can drive. No.
But yeah, he's a pretty interesting character.
They've kind of ended this particular universe, but they're still adapting famous storylines piece by piece. Like, we just seen Red Sun, which is very good adaptation.
As a highly full. What I was going to mention was, I'm kind of looking at, I'm certain that they could probably do more storylines based upon a single character.
Okay.
And case in point is Harley Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is the one on DC. Well, this is the series that's on DC Universe.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, it's very adult.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people do yell 4-letter words on here.
Mm-hmm.
And the violence is about as graphic as Justice League Dark. You will see blood. You probably won't see a lot of entrails. But it goes off on a different direction than any of the storylines from the comics.
Okay.
So and there's no callbacks or Easter eggs to anything else. This is like
a self-contained thing.
It's very, very self-contained. I mean, go ahead.
Okay. So we got that one. We got the Batman Ninja Turtles thing that they did, which is also an interesting direction in itself. We've got Red Sun. We've got Dark Knight Returns by itself. Gotham by Gaslight.
Mm-hmm.
One of their better graphic novel interpretations. So it's not been actually determined what type of universe they will build up after this now. I understand, they're supposed to be doing The Long Halloween next. One of my absolute favorite Batman stories ever.
I mean, to be honest, I never really thought from the beginning. I never really thought that they were going to actually have some means of connecting some of the movies that they've done.
Mm-hmm.
And sure, in some ways it may have been, if it worked pretty well with the Marvel universe, the cinematic universe movies, then maybe we can probably throw it a little bit, in the animated ones. We just won't tell anybody that we're doing.
Oh man.
Kind of, but I kind of think that more there. I would say either standalone characters, because I think they're supposed to be in development a Green Lantern series. And,
on HBO Max, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Is that live or is that animated? I don't know.
I think it's going to be animated.
Okay.
And then of course doing adaptations, animated adaptations of some of their best storylines,
mm-hmm.
or in some cases probably redo some of them, make them a little bit better than what they did.
Which is that's why I loved Death and Return of Superman so much, because that the actual comic, some strange aside, is my favorite Superman storyline.
Mm-hmm.
I know people keep trying to tell me it's All-Star Superman, but I love Death and Return of Superman so much, because they didn't have to say, okay, this is an alternate version where he's angry, or an alternate version where he's evil. No, this is Superman himself.
Mm-hmm.
He gets knocked down. You know, he's dead. He gets knocked down as low as you can go. He comes back fighting. He stops the threat that's in there. In the comics, it was Mongol and the Cyborg Superman.
Mhm.
Here, it's Cyborg Superman and some different things. But I've always really liked that storyline because out of that we got Superman really coming back and kicking butt and taking some stuff down, and also we got new characters like the Man of Steel and Superboy. So we got that out of that. So and the first time they ever animated it was what was it? Superman Doomsday. It was just, it was like a 70-minute thing, and it completely went away from the story. He had Lex Luthor crying about Superman not being around, and it was horrible. It was really horrible.
If I remember, that was more all in one.
Yeah. It was just, and like you saw Doomsday, but you didn't see the other Superman at all. It was just all Lex Luthor crying and moaning and stuff. And I honestly, I remember seeing the preview at San Diego Comic-Con and walking out really pissed off. I really just absolutely hated it. So I was like, so when they said, okay, we're gonna redo it with this thing and with this two-parter and flesh everything out, I'm like, cool, you did a good job. And apparently that particular storyline is one of the lead-ups to War. Basically, Darkseid unleashes a combination of Parademon and Doomsday hybrids.
Oh, yeah.
And they were like, holy shit. Mm-hmm. That is nasty as hell. So, I mean, you know, you only got one Kryptonian versus all these monstrous part Kryptonians, and it is just...
They did a lot of damage, you know, when they...
Oh, my goodness. They mess up Earth so badly. I really could not believe they went there. But like I said, like we were talking about, they all the relationships they've built within the previous films. You get to see Damian. He's matured since, the Batman, the first Batman in this Batman and Robin thing. He's way more matured. He's like doing a better leader, more or less, for the Teen Titans. Mm-hmm. You get to see him develop a more of a better relationship with what's left of the Titans. I'll try to leave some of that to y'all to watch.
Well, I've already seen it, so
no, you've seen it. Oh, yeah. I love seeing his evolution through this entire process. But and you know, when you get to this movie, you're like you kind of reflect back on how he acted and how he's changed over time. So I honestly think that this universe can be very much considered, in one respect, Damian's story. I went on a couple of my pages I would like to visit on Facebook and just asked, hey, what questions would you really want to discuss, or topics would you want to discuss here? What were your opinions of the actual film? Let me see. Let me go here. All right. So I promised that I would get as many of you people who actually responded onto this. I'm willing to make certain I get to it. Okay, here's a point. Drew Constantine, he made a point that he said he felt that I saw the Apokolips War. The story was okay, but not as good as the drama of the comic book story was adapted from. I have to disagree on that. Oh, dang, that's one thing I definitely need to talk about. In addition, the art in these things could be way better. I'm kind of spoiled by things like Into the Spider-Verse art, and so this art is still not cutting for me. And that's something that just kind of we could kind of touch on. Thank you, Drew. Because like for a long time, DC has been the standard for animated storytelling when it comes to superheroes. Like the Marvel stuff, it's just not been able to compete. Either from story point or even from a voice acting point, Marvel stuff is just not quite been as good for whatever reason. Until Into the Spider-Verse, which is the big anomaly now, is pretty much the game changer. With Not only the fact that it is CG, but like all the bits of miniature flashbacks or callbacks that are like embedded in the art all the way through into the Spider-Verse. So do you think that DC has, like I said, they have set the standard with traditional animation and making these movies, but then Marvel, Sony specifically, that group, the fact that it's well animated and well written. B, they actually went with the Miles character, Miles Morales, instead of Peter Parker, and developed him, and he connected with so many comic book readers of all persuasions. That they've created a hellified franchise, but then they're already trying to spin off the Spider-Girl universe. They're going to focus one on Gwen and all the different female variant spiders. Spider-Characters.
Yes, we have to have Penny Parker. Yeah, we have to have Penny Parker and Spider.
Penny and Silk. I think that's the name. Silk. Mm-hmm. I've not really read up on, but I know she exists. So there's supposed to be one specifically focused on supposed to be one on another with Miles, and we're gonna see Ben Parker and some of the others. And, the Japanese Spider-Man is in that.
So,
but what do you think we'll see DC try to adapt to that type of storytelling, and try to compete with that, or do you think that they'll just go with what they've got with what they have here and what they've established for the last, I guess, couple?
Well, they have it. I mean, in the past, they have attempted on doing CGI with the. They did have they did have a Green Lantern series that was done all CGI.
That's true. True.
They've never, if I recall, they've never
fully embraced it
as a feature film.
Yeah, they've not done one yet.
The closest that you'll get to that would be the Lego series.
The Lego movie, yeah. I grew up as a fan of Super Friends as a kid. I've never really thought that I could actually say I'm going to see basically a Super Friends movie that you can't show kids. You really cannot. You cannot show Apokolips War to kids. That it would just traumatize them.
Well, I think in the case of the Justice League, they kind of suffered the same as Batman, because over the past 50 plus years, Batman's had to deal with the fact that he had this very popular show over 50 years that people still enjoy, but you try making it gritty, and people were like, you can't do that.
Yeah, like the classic fans of that particular show versus the ones of Dark Knight Returns or Tim Burton stuff.
Yeah, well, it took that Tim Burton movie to actually get people fully
in that different light
from the TVs, from the 66 TV series.
Mm-hmm.
And with the Justice League, it was still kind of tough because for the fact that, hey, when they started out in the early 70s, they weren't even called the Justice League.
What was it?
But
the Super Friends, yeah. Or then you had the Filmation one, the Justice League of America.
But that was before
female members.
But that was before Super Friends, though.
Yeah, that was before Super Friends.
But at least they were able to keep that.
That is one thing that we can think about. Like, it is completely, DC's animation has so evolved in terms of audience focus, storytelling, progressive storytelling versus episodic storytelling,
and having people involved that actually knows what the character looks like, how they do. Because we could probably, it's like, yeah, you could probably spend a lot of time talking about how Alex Toth, actually just redesigned all the characters in Super Friends, and I was like, yeah, but he's a comic book artist. He was actually able to do that. Of course, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have Space Ghost, but that's another thing altogether.
True.
But
and then we've also gotten past the the morals the morals section, or the Wendy and Marvin, or Wonder Twins eras. Oh, geez.
Or comedy relief. Well, remember that was kind of a staple. I mean, that was kind of a staple for for both shows, especially with the Hanna-Barbera, because it's like, well, we had to have the show. We had to have, for comedy relief, we have to have at least kids and an animal.
Right. Yeah, and
like a kid and an animal.
And basically, they were set such a specific standard. You could not ever do any progressive storytelling or anything remotely.
So art style on it just wouldn't fit. And that it worked out really well, because I think people understood, well, not exactly understand, but they also knew that, hey, this is just like what I had read or will read.
And also,
go ahead.
I do want to get to I want to get to more of the comments that were thrown at me here.
Bring them on.
I really want to get to one by Zahn Dartigan Villanueva. He made this point, and we just got through. You and I just got through talking about the past, where everything was more kid or child oriented until the adult, and we'd like to discuss the evolution of the characters from Batman on Scooby-Doo to the era here we are now, and some characters stayed popular and others were ridiculed and became popular. For example, Aquaman, people took a joke of him riding on a seahorse to now he's a complete badass who's got one of the most popular live-action films that we've had. And it's like, yeah, you're right. They've evolved. Although I would actually have to credit Jeff Johns' initial comic, how he was writing Aquaman for that, for the rise of his popularity. But then we went to was it the Justice League Throne of Atlantis movie, where he's depicted and he gets to come into his own, and he's like, he's in the sea, he talks to fish, like, okay, this is the guy who's controlling 70% of the planet Earth.
Yeah, I mean, he could actually be the ruler of Earth if he wanted to.
Yeah, he could rule Earth just if he really felt like it, up and take over. And do it
before Namor does.
Oh yeah, before Namor. Mysterious earthquake. We're not sure about that, but anyway. They evolved Aquaman so greatly and made him such a complete badass.
Once again, I think we went talking through this, and we forgot about Jeff Johns and his contribution.
He's contributed greatly, although I will say I didn't like the initial Justice League War that he wrote. I did not like it. Because there's one thing about this, and even it's kind of reflected in this particular universe. There's one thing that I never entirely have not liked, although I think that's more scheduling than anything. To me, Darkseid himself, he's the guy behind the scenes until he decides, I'm gonna just wreck things up. He normally sends little minions, or what's that one thing that Magneto says in one of the X-Men films? It just, the pawns go first. Yeah. And Darkseid's always been like that with Calabac and Granny Goodness, Steppenwolf, you name it. All the minions go.
Or just appearing out of nowhere and having a little chat.
Yeah, Hi, how are you doing? I'm going to mess you up. Would you like some tea? Okay, see you later. And then.
Well, I kind of think the character himself, he's gone. I don't think a lot of people knew about his evolution, because I think when. Let me see.
Yeah, and the Super Friends.
He was, if I recall, he was. Remember, he was like the initial bad guy when they did the superpowers line.
Yes, and he was obsessed with trying to get Wonder Woman to sleep with him. I remember.
and prior to that, not many people knew about what this character did. It's like, oh, it's this big gray guy with some skin issues, you know,
and eye beams, and that's it.
And that was it. But I think and then, yeah. I think it took a while, and it was most in the comics, and you know, you had some writers, including John Byrne, that you know knew how Kirby did the character and kept him, you know, to the point on which later on people started using him in other series, and he started becoming a gradual badass to the point on which, you know, when he started making let me see, what was his other, he did appear in Superman the Animated Series.
Yes, that's where they laid the groundwork piece by piece, like, who's sending you these weapons? Oh, that guy. And then Calabac goes and attacks, and then there's one where they kill Dan Turpin, like one of the most greatest moments I've ever seen.
Yeah, because I think prior to that he was kind of toned down a little, you know, because I mean, you know, this was Super Friends, you know, so they had, you know,
I think that's like one thing that's I have to agree here. I would have liked to have seen more of Darkseid, at least one more film where they actually flesh out what he's about to do.
I mean, in a way, we could have had that in the live action Justice League movie.
Yeah, I honestly feel like Apokolips War here, but it's basically everything Zack Snyder wanted to do, except with better writing, respect to the original characters, and use of primary colors. That's what this is.
I've always told people in regards to Darkseid, he is a long line of Kirby villains on which I refer to them as thinking villains. They're not the type that goes into a bank and robs it.
Right.
They either have somebody to do it for them, or in the case of Darkseid, he throws out fear at them, and then they go do the robbing.
Yeah.
And it's such a way that, hey, the only thing that he would have to deal with is the fact that people are going to oppose him, and that's when like, say, the Man of Steel comes in, and the thing is, he was able to do that a whole lot better than how they later portrayed Lex Luthor, because in the past he was more like a B-rate villain that always came up with some contraption that to steal something. Superman comes over, beats the crap out of him, throws him in jail, and then he does it again.
And then now having him become a businessman with extreme smarts, but like extremely powerful businessman.
But John Byrne did that, and that was probably his biggest contribution, because what he did with him in Man of Steel is still in some ways with us today, and that he's still, he's smart, but he's not stupid smart.
And the thing is, though, we go back to the movie Apokolips War. Basically Superman decides that he wants to go and attack Darkseid, and Luthor's like, no, this is a very bad idea, and we pretty much get proven Luthor was right in this movie. He's like, no, yes, he's self-serving. Yes, he's afraid, but he's also a bit of the voice of reason in this movie. This is the worst idea you could possibly do, and everything goes down. I'm gonna get to one take here. One of the people that wrote in, because he also talks about another interesting issue. Tony Barletta, who also is like the comic books director at DragonCon, So I haven't seen the new Justice League Apokolips War, but I've seen most of the others. I'd say the problem right now is that the new 52 now feels so long ago, which is true. Rebirth feels like a long time ago, and they started this batch of these movies to tie directly in with the new 52 and make them feel fresh, but new 52 now feels dated, but I guess you could say that's true. And now with how they've changed, the changes more directly affected Superman and Wonder Woman in their respective movies here in this universe. I guess that's to a degree.
Can you say cosmic Band-Aid?
Yeah.
It's going on that whole thing. I think after a while, when DC finally realized that people really weren't getting that much of the new 52, and they started a Rebirth,
And they
know that they were going to have a whole lot of explaining to stitch in all the stuff that they did in New 52 and integrate it with the
there's a lot of rearranging on both. I'm like, with New 52, they killed the New 52 Superman and brought in the 90s Superman married to Lois.
I think.
Incidentally, I would like to say for the record, Emerald Knights is the most underrated DC movie they've ever done. You really should check it out. It's very well animated, and it has 3 Alan Moore stories in it. It's a kick-ass film, and it's entirely slept on. Okay. They have a lot of talent here. So,
all-star casting.
All-star casting. It's seriously good stuff. Let me get to more of the comments from the audience real quick. Rodney Rodas felt like this was a bit of a rush job, and they were trying to be as bloody and violent as possible. And then there's the ending, which I can understand why he's not entirely thrilled with the ending, but I guess you could say it ties up everything.
I was in something like that. I was going to mention that, it would actually fall into the cosmic type, because there were a few people that got like transformed a bit, by Darkseid, and they're not going to be back the way that they were.
Okay, let me get to this. Sante Thompson, I think that's his name. Sante Thompson, Sante Thompson. If I mispronounce your name, I'm very sorry. I apologize. My question is: King Shark a shark? That's an interesting one.
He's a hybrid.
Yeah. Elliot Datu says King Shark is the best part of that movie. But I gotta say, I wasn't prepared for the amount of L's that got taken by the heroes. Yeah, agreed.
Well, there is that thing that they mentioned regarding King Shark that it's like I don't know.
Yeah, that's a different one. Yeah. James Carr.
And just for a record, this is not the same one that's in Harley Quinn. Okay.
James Carr, with what happens in the end, do the L's even count? That's true, but still they're there. You get to see them on screen, and you're still going, holy crap. Polaris Walls thought the movie was amazing. Alex Laura Kai. One thing I would like to see is, do you personally see them making another animated universe as big as this one, with maybe a rebirth type thing, or something else that's not as closely tied to the comics, or do you think they'll just do a bunch of one-offs and sequels? Ooh, that's a good question.
See now, that's another. Now that would be
popular apparently.
Now that would be a really big achievement right there for DC if they did an animated adaptation of Metal.
I want to see them do Blackest Night. Let's do all that. Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, that too. Metal. I think the thing is with Metal is the fact
we do have like we were talking earlier. They're about to adapt Long Halloween.
On, and you have to know a whole lot of things, thrown in, because you're and then you also have to deal with all of of the bad versions of Batman, including everybody's favorite, the Batman Who Laughs.
Jeez. Oh, there's one other thing that we keep skipping over. There's one other thing that they've been doing. I love these little, since we talk about short things, the DC spotlights. I love those things. They collected one about the first set, with what's it? Jonah Hex.
Oh,
Spectre.
Yeah. Didn't they? I think it's also called. Isn't it also called Showcase?
DC Showcase. I think. Yeah. Okay. It might be that. Jonah Hex, the Spectre, Green Arrow got one, and then more recently.
I think Vixen got one, and then she also had one in CW.
Yeah, Vixen has her own series, and apparently that's supposed to. It's an animated series that's supposed to tie into the CW live shows, as I understand it. And then you also had these other shorts that were more recent. Recently, they had Sergeant Rock had one, although apparently he gets a really weird squad to work with. Death got one. And it's actually a beautiful story.
And I think the good thing about those is that it actually gives them a chance to try out whether a character would
popular,
would work out, whether it's bad or.
There's one I watched recently. I think. Oh yeah, they did one with Phantom Stranger. It was okay. He's just kind of there, but yeah, I love those. Those were shorts, and like you said, they gave a chance to see characters you don't normally see get a full show. So that's another great thing that DC Animation has done. So yes, we gotta end this now. A little bit late. Hey, we need to stop recording, folks. I want to thank y'all. Thank you, Lloyd. And all right. See you at the con scene. I'm Darius Washington, Momocon's anime industry coordinator, and another fanboy like you guys are. Happy to talk with y'all about this stuff some more. Take care. See you later.
Okay.